Tonight, MPs get bodyguards with immediate effect, but does the police have the numbers to spare as many as 800 men in the long term to provide 24-hour security for the MPs?
Of course, there are going to be logistical challenges, and we need to mobilize the resources to do so. And I want you people to help in this exercise. Immediately we get 1:500, everybody and everything is going to be okay.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. The future is exciting already. Well, tonight, members of parliament will, for the first time, soon get to go about their business with state-sponsored bodyguards. They campaigned and made an uncompromising demand on the state, and they got it after the murder of their colleague MP for Ifantiman. Today, after a closed-door session with the Interior Minister, members of Parliament finally got what they have clamored for years. Now, personal police protection will now be provided to members of Parliament as they go about their business. Listen to the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry.
As you know, the street was generally being protected, but, we have an improved system. For instance, when you look at those categories of persons who are provided, first, bodyguards, second, residential protection by the police for day and night, they fall into that group that we deal with under Article 71. And so the security is certainly part of those facilities that should be available to members of Parliament. Thanks to the retooling of the security agencies supported by Parliament, instituted and led by the President, we have more security agencies and security personnel available. So what we have proposed is that between now and the end of the year, we are going to provide additional 200 police personnel to be part of the Parliamentary Protection Unit, making it therefore attain the status of a divisional police command that would take care of members of Parliament as bodyguards, but we ideally, to get to where we should get to, subsequently, we should have 800 police added so that each member of Parliament will also have security at home in the day and night. The judges do have that. Ministers do have that. Indeed, leadership of Parliament, the Speaker, Deputy Speakers, and leadership has that. So, thanks to the
So that is the Interior Minister in Parliament today after that closed-door session. But let's speak now to my colleague, Joseph Gakpo, the parliamentary correspondent. Joseph, please explain this for me. This was a briefing outside the chamber because this meeting with the MPs, all of you had to be cleared out of the room for this to happen. Why?
Correct. So this was the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, addressing the parliamentary press call on the presence of Parliament, flanked by the majority leader, Osei Mensah, the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, and a number of MPs on both the majority and the minority side, including the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee, Seth Champong. Now, what happened was, you recall the Speaker did make the point that the Interior Minister should come brief MPs on security arrangements for them going forward. This was last week, Thursday. Now, today, just before the Minister took the floor, the Speaker ordered that the room be cleared of all non-members of Parliament, making the point that it's a discussion on issues having to do with security of MPs, and so then they are going into a sitting of all members of Parliament as a single committee, what they call the committee of a whole meeting, so that then it's limited to just MPs. And there are rare occasions when this happens. Normally when they are discussing ex gratia, that's when they do start, or what they have in camera sittings, maybe where they on the
top security issue.
Yes, and when they are approving things like the District Assembly Common Fund formula, the National Health Insurance Scheme formula, the House needs to look at as a whole committee instead of it being looked at by a specific committee. That's when they do that. Now, just to point this out, there was an intervention by the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, that this is a matter of public interest and that members of the public had to know. But the Speaker went on to make the point.
So the minority guys were opposed to this meeting, this discussion, briefing being held in camera, away from the public's scrutiny.
The minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, made that point very clearly on the floor, that in the public interest, he felt the conversation on the security should happen with members of the press in the, ordinary members of the public rather than in the gallery. But the Speaker insisted that, as far as he is concerned, in this matter, non-members of Parliament are spectators, and they shouldn't
including yourself.
Exactly. So we all had to step out for that meeting to span almost 2 hours, and then after that, then the Interior Minister then came to brief members of the press conference.
Let's get some breakdown quickly. I mean, when will this deployment be done exactly?
So the Minister says it's immediate, and particularly they are looking at deployment happening that would cover the security of MPs between now and elections. The election time, over the next 2 months. So he says the deployment is happening immediately. He made the point that MPs would have some say in the choice of the bodyguards in question. So then those conversations are beginning now, so that then the bodyguards will be deployed.
MPs have a preference,
yes,
as in which
exactly.
Police person should protect me.
Exactly. He rightly made that point. Now, to clarify the figures, immediately 200 of them are being deployed to join the parliamentary.
Why not 275?
So there are more than 50 members of parliament currently who are ministers or deputy ministers, which means they have their police bodyguards already. And additionally, the leadership, from the deputy speakers to the majority and the minority leaders, as well as the chief whips, all have police protection already. So when you take out the figure of the number of MPs who are ministers or deputy ministers and have protection, and the leadership who also have protection, then what is left in terms of those who don't have are the 200 MPs on both the minority and the minority side.
But
so
there's also the question about some 800 number that the minister also talks about,
which he says is actually a plan for the long term. So he says they need to be treated like Article 71 office holders, like the judges, like the executive, in this case the ministers, and per the regular practice with regards to that. That said, Article 71 office holder would have a bodyguard who would run around with him anywhere he goes, and when it's night he goes home and goes to sleep in his house, and the MP, and then the
bodyguard goes home.
The bodyguard also goes home, and then the office holder also goes home. And then additionally, they have two different police bodyguards, one of them serving as a daytime security person in their house, and then a second one serving as a nighttime security person in their house. So
so what you're saying is, eventually MPs will have 3 police officers guarding them.
Correct.
24 hours, round the clock.
2 in their house, 1 for day, 1 for night, and then the other one who will be escorting them everywhere they go as a personal bodyguard.
Just to stay with me, I want to bring in security analyst Colonel Festus Obwaje. Colonel, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Having me, Evans.
Great. Also joining me is the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committees and a member of Parliament himself. Joins us on the telephone line. He was in the House today, obviously. Mr. Sese-Champo, I'm grateful that you could join me.
Thank you very much, Evan.
Colonel, let me start with you. I mean, your reaction to this.
Well, my reaction is that what the MPs have done amounts to an MP grievance coup, where they have wielded the influence that is inherent in that institution to get the government to provide them with 200 police officers as an interim measure. And as I've been saying, we did not hear anything, we haven't heard anything as to how substantively the state is going to ensure that security within the wider society is enhanced. The reality of what this decision is that effective the time that the IGP finds the 200 police officers to assign for MP protection duties, the areas of operations of the police let's say, patrolling, let's say, rapid reaction, are going to suffer because the IGP will necessarily have to withdraw police officers from some of the operational elements in order to assign for MPs' duties. It may entail a reduction in the numbers of patrols, or it may entail a reduction in the 24-hour cycle of patrolling, but somehow police visibility operations will suffer until such time that additional recruitment is made. And that recruitment now enables the IGP to balance off the equation.
Very interesting thought. Stay with me, kind of, Professor Sabaji. I want to bring in the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee. Of course, he was on my show on PMS yesterday, and collectively, with his leader and the minority members themselves, were clear that they needed this, and they got it just 24 hours on. Mr. Champon, Colonel Professor Sabaji makes the point that what you've done amounts to what he calls an MP's grievance coup. You agree?
That is Colonel's opinion. I do not begrudge him for his opinion. Colonel is entitled to that. But it is good for all of us to sit with this conversation. Historically, this is not the first time this matter is happening. And in the life of this parliament, this has been a matter that has been on the table for conversation. And coincidentally, it happens that this news broke and the speaker reminded the Minister of Interior to come to brief the House on the status. So it's a matter that has already been in the conversation. But that notwithstanding, I'm sure this is a very beautiful democratic state and we are all allowed to share our thoughts. I only will not be in the same strength of analysis and will divert from the point of view of Colonel Abuaji, where he talks about operational details. I'm not privy to those operational details. Certainly, we are meeting with the IGP and the Minister again in Parliament as a committee on other security issues this week, and said we would have to get further details from them as to how they are going to do all these things for us. And at the same time, I know they themselves would also come out to speak for the service. So I'd rather listen to you and answer to your questions. Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Champon, the question is 200 police officers for members of parliament, 800 in the long term, sometime
so
next
if you take the numbers on the face value as you
the question really is, that is 200 less police officers available to protect me and everybody else listening to us tonight.
Yeah, that is the simplistic way you can approach the subject. As Colonel Festus said, this parliament and this institution has a police station. The police administration, by their own arrangement, periodically upgrades their stations. This station here in Parliament was a district station. It's being raised to the status of a division. And it's being beefed up with that number to operate. It is not strictly for workings here in Parliament alone. Matters that borders on our public safety. Are members of Parliament citizens or they are not citizens? Are we part of the Republic or we are not part of the Republic?
Yeah, you are, but we all are. And we know none of us have one. The ratio is not one citizen, one police officer.
Unfortunately, we held this debate yesterday, and I told you. Unfortunately for me, it's not me in person. It's the office I occupy. Did we decide to elect an official to work for us instead of the state?
Electra was recently murdered in cold blood. Should every lecturer get one police officer protection?
I just made a very simple statement. I said, did I decide that I be elected, or the state went on a referendum and decided to hold elections to keep some persons of state to serve in that state? I did not. It was a decision of state. I'm sure you know this. In the same way that I find it very distasteful that a lecturer, a person, a learned man of this republic was murdered in cold blood, I'm asking and demanding for questions and answers from the police service. And that is my duty. and I'm demanding for answers. I'm not the only one. The president has called for that answer as well. Life must go on.
I mean, we are all in public service, including this lecturer at the University of Ghana. I am too. A lot of people feel unsafe who are also in public service. They don't get the police. But because you're members of parliament, I guess that's kind of Professor Baja's point. And you wield the power, you can hold the entire minister before you shut the doors of parliament to what the speaker calls spectators and force him to make concessions on your behalf. That's what you did.
Let us all educate the people who are listening into us. The people who were in the gallery were not just mere spectators. They were admitted parliamentary press corps. There were some strangers who were sitting in our public gallery. By our standing orders, which is part of the laws of the Republic of Ghana, our procedures and our processes for engagement mandates us to hold meetings of close. And that is part and parcel of our practice. I listened to your colleague and a good friend of mine, Joseph Opoku Gapo, try to elucidate on the matter that we do such meetings sometimes when we are going to approve of certain statutory funds and certain security briefings. When the electoral commissioner and her commission members appear before parliament, we do similar meetings. When the governor of the Bank of Ghana appears before parliament, we do similar meetings. So the speaker did not just walk people away as spectators. Let's put out the narrative out there accurately, correctly, for all of us to learn. Other than that, we, by our commentary, we are creating some enmity within our own members of this body called Ghana. And I encourage us, all of us as commentators and persons who are minded so much on the narrative and on the public safety of this country, we should guard it and help all of us.
Let me ask you, Chairman. So you're the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee. So when you take 200 police officers who will normally be on patrol duties or on the street protecting all of us, there is certainly going to be a gap of 200. How do you plan to fix it? To fix that gap and occupy that space?
Just about 2 weeks ago, new recruits were passed out. There are processes. I did not plan this. And this does not just come overnight. I use the word coincidental. This does not just come overnight. I'm sure the police service knows what they are doing.
I mean, but I need to ask you, you met the Interior Minister for close to 2 hours. Did he state categorically how he plans to plug that hole, that gap that the 200 officers will leave?
James, I can't perjure myself as a sworn officer of state. Close meetings are close meetings. I'm not allowed to discuss close meetings. That is why the minister held a press meeting and had the majority and minority leadership flank him.
Yeah, he didn't provide that answer. I'm sure you agree it's a legitimate question to address.
I'm not debasing your question at all. But mind you, we operate in an ambience of regulation and law. And so I cannot sit in Parliament. As we speak, Parliament is in session. Because I was asked that I'm coming to speak with you, I have to get out of the chamber. But I'm still on the precincts of Parliament. The standing orders of Parliament do not allow me to speak without permission from the Speaker. Matters we discuss at plenary in closed meeting. That is why the minister had to tell the whole public what he came to tell Parliament.
Yeah.
And I speak to the issues as the minister reported to public. I cannot go beyond the veil. I am not permitted to do so.
Stay with me, Mr. Champon.
I will, my brother.
So doesn't he have a point, though, that we elected them to be our representatives? There's an admission in there that we've given them a special status. And if we've done so, democracy is expensive. They need protection so they can do the job that we've elected them to do in safety and security and in peace, with a peace of mind. He has a point, has he not, God?
No, I wouldn't think so. You see, democracy is not expensive. Democracy is as expensive as each society makes it to be. That is why yesterday I think the majority leader in the House said that owing to certain economic challenges, the kinds of police capacities that we probably need cannot be met. But I have countered that argument by saying that within the same economic circumstances, we buy presidential jets. Why? Because we think that the political class is so special that they must be accorded those privileges and perquisites of office. We buy very expensive vehicles and give to the political class and give them very good salaries. It doesn't mean that democracy is expensive. Democracy has become expensive because the political class who invariably, articulate those political structures have made it to be so. But the point is that I want to go back to what Kofi Annan said, may he rest in peace, many years ago, that security is an indivisible commodity. You cannot have, you are speaking in geopolitical terms, you cannot have more security in the Western societies and less security elsewhere. It's been proven right. So, coming back to Ghana, Ghana's security is indivisible. You cannot have more security for one class of citizens and less security for the rest of the citizens. So, police will go and protect the MPs. But until such time that the IGP fills the gap, as you've been suggesting, there is going to be a gap in that operational presence of the police. So police protection for the wider society is going to suffer. That fact we cannot dispute. And then the question about the other issue about recruitment is that, look, in professional environments like doctors, the fact that you turn out 100 doctors today doesn't mean that your health delivery system has advanced 100-fold. When these recruits pass out, they are as raw as any other person. They need now to learn policing on the ground. It takes time for them to become mature, well-groomed police officers. So the fact that we are throwing in 4,000 police officers and bring the number to about 37 when we need 60,000 doesn't mean that we have done well. We haven't done well. We must be aiming to have 60,000 police officers if our population is 30 million. And then enhance their technology or technological, devices. And then the training of the detectives. And then the funding for the detectives to pay informants for information. If you work out 5,350 detectives to our population, Evans, it comes to one police officer to a population of 6,000. The whole idea is that one detective cannot be present in a population of 6,000 around the clock. So he needs informants. But to have informants, you need a budget to pay. Have we given the police that kind of budget requisite for acquiring crime intelligence, that even if it's one detective in a population of 6,000, that detective can then process the intelligence in order for other departments of the police, like operations, to react? So we need to have that conversation. We cannot undo the decision of the Minister of Interior, but the conversation must not stop here. Going forward, we need to constructively, vehemently discuss how we can enhance public safety and security. Otherwise, trust me, MPs may be secure, but the society as a whole will not be secure. And security or insecurity thereof is a perception. Yeah. Look, on the list that I have drawn, 19, somebody says 20, 25. Only 2 MPs have been killed, but 2 journalists have also been killed. And businessmen have been killed, nurses have been killed, drivers have been killed, police officers have been killed. Why are we not making the same argument for protection of these professional entities within society? In that case, it's not about one-to-one, but it's about a police service well-resourced, that can provide a security umbrella under which all of us can pursue our socioeconomic livelihoods. I think that these are the few points that I wish to make.
I'm grateful that you joined us with your thoughts. Mr. Champon is still with me. But Joseph, did the Interior Minister address the question of the general security situation in the country?
That is something that they are paying attention to, and went on to say over the last few years, crime in the country has reduced drastically. He referenced greater crime, said that it's dropped by about 50%, and went on to say, in terms of providing the police with adequate logistic and personnel, they've really increased the numbers to the extent that around this time, there may be some logistical challenges. Those were the words that he used. Once they deploy, as far as the MPs are concerned, but he thinks they have enough of the numbers to still keep the situation under control.
As you know, the street was generally being protected, but we have an improved system. For instance, we have got the enhanced Operation Calm Life, and what happened was, on September 20th, we worked the impact so far. And what I can tell you is that when you compare the crime figures for this year to last year, you'll find out that there was a heap drop because of the increased deployment. And for instance, a place like Accra up to August had a reduction of armed robberies by 53%. And generally across the place, the country, 10% minimum. But of course, that is improved security, but it's not perfect security. We're working to make sure we do even more.
Mr. Champon, so the minister says the deployment of the 200 bodyguards to you will be immediate. How immediate is this? Was there timelines? Are you getting it tomorrow?
When he says immediate, he meant that we will receive the people as and when the police service is available with them. In that, because they are going to be personal bodyguards, there is the issue of personal interest, and members would have to go through the procedures in choosing who their bodyguards would be. And it can only happen within a period that it is convenient for either parties, i.e. the bodyguards, the police institution, and the members of parliament. So it's going to be work in progress. It's not something that will happen overnight. But Evans, before you move on,
please.
I want to have a little bite on some of the points raised by Colonel Festus Obwache. First and foremost, security that is being provided for personnel of our Constitution under Article 71 is not strictly the political elite. I don't think the Chief Justice is a political animal. He cannot be equated to that. And it is real that we all educate ourselves over and over that public safety is of essence. In the same way we advance that argument, when we sound the analysis to read as if it is only a political elite and a few who are marginalizing the lot of the people, it doesn't speak well of us. It connotes a different interpretation in the minds of the listener, and it is not a good analysis. I do not subscribe to that school of thought, and I think we need to up our game. Let's do proper empirical analysis. He did a good analysis of the numbers for us. Yes, I know that when recruits pass out, they must go through on-the-job training and build experience. My capacity today as an administrator, as a member of parliament, was not the same when I entered parliament in the year 2009. I have developed capacity. I have come of age. We are not going to use, forgive my language, the senior most police official to manage as a bodyguard. We are not going to do that. We are going to ensure that we use the right people. Let us have good confidence in our public service. Let us have good analysis of what we have admitted by ourselves to do in this dispensation of democracy.
Well, Sefa Champon is the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee. Tonight, I want to hear from you. 055-11-11997. Your members of parliament will now get bodyguards, 200 of them in the short term. In the long term, they'll get 800 police officers. One member of parliament will get 3 police officers to guard them 24 hours. I want to hear your thoughts on this. 055 1111 997. Newsnight starts right now.